They hadn't touched in months. Not because they didn't love each other. Not because desire was gone. But because every time she reached for his hand, he tensed. And every time he tried to speak about what he felt, words disappeared like mist. They were in their 60s. Retired. Comfortable. Yet in the space between their pillows, was silence. One evening, she whispered, "Do you still want me?" And after a long pause, he said, "I do. But I'm afraid you don't want me anymore." That moment changed everything. Because behind distance, was fear. Behind fear, was love still alive, waiting to be spoken. This is a story about what happens when we stop pretending everything is fine and start telling the truth. Not just with our mouths, but with our eyes, our touch, our presence. Because real intimacy doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins with feeling safe, to be fully seen. It started with silence. Not a loud fight. Not betrayal. Just silence. A couple in their late 60s, married for over 30 years, suddenly found that the space between them in bed had grown cold not because of a lack of love, but because no one dared to speak first. He worried he was no longer enough. She feared asking for closeness would sound like pressure. So they said nothing. They touched less. And quietly, the gap between them widened. What if I told you this happens more often than you think? Not just in failing relationships. Not just in couples who've drifted apart. But even in strong, loving partnerships where desire still lives, hidden beneath layers of fear, shame, and unspoken change. Because as we age, something no one warns us about begins to matter more than technique, more than stamina, more than hormones. It's emotional safety. And without it, intimacy can't breathe. So today, we're not just going to talk about sex. We're going to talk about what makes closeness possible again even after years of distance. This is not a lesson. This is an invitation. To listen closely. To feel deeply. To remember, it is never too late to reconnect. Small Blue Diamond Part 1.1 Not just for the young, expanded, 1,500 words. When most people think of sex or intimacy, the image that often comes to mind is of youth. Smooth skin, strong bodies, quick desire. The world has told us in magazines, on screens, and even in medical settings that sexuality belongs to the young. But that story is incomplete. And frankly, it's wrong. Because the truth is, sexuality doesn't vanish with age. It matures. It deepens. And sometimes it becomes more meaningful than ever before. Let's pause here for a moment. You may be in your 50s, 60s, 70s, or even beyond. You may have had children, been through heartbreak, lived through illness, or loss. You may carry wrinkles not only on your skin but in your memory, moments of laughter, of pain, of growing through life's storms. And still, despite all of that, or perhaps because of it, you might feel a quiet longing. A desire to be held. To be wanted. To feel alive in your own skin again. That longing is not foolish. It's not inappropriate. It's not something to be ashamed of. It is human. We live in a world that often pretends intimacy belongs only to the young. It shows us movies filled with passion, music that celebrates new love, and advertisements that market sex as a symbol of youth. Rarely do we see a 70-year-old couple holding each other in bed. Rarely do we hear conversations about desire in later life without someone laughing awkwardly or changing the subject. And so, many older adults begin to internalize this silence. They begin to wonder, is it strange that I still want this? Is something wrong with me? Should I just accept that part of my life is over? The answer is, no. Nothing is wrong with you. In fact, what you're feeling is one of the most natural and beautiful parts of being alive. Intimacy, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, is not a privilege of youth. It is a right that spans the entire arc of life. A new kind of touch. Yes, things change. Your skin may be softer. Your joints may ache. Your stamina may not be what it once was. But what if I told you that none of that disqualifies you from pleasure? That in fact, your age offers something that many younger lovers don't yet understand? Presence. Patience. Understanding. Emotional depth. As we grow older, our capacity to connect often becomes richer. We are more willing to slow down, to listen, to tune into another person's needs and our own. We may not chase the same kind of wildfire we once knew, but we learn to tend to something more lasting, a steady flame that warms rather than burns. Intimacy beyond intercourse. This is where we begin to redefine intimacy. Because for many older couples, sex no longer looks the way it did decades ago, and that's okay. Sometimes it's a hand resting gently on your partner's back as they fall asleep. Sometimes it's lying side by side, sharing memories, whispering soft words into the dark. Sometimes it's laughter in the kitchen, a slow dance to an old record, or simply looking into each other's eyes without rushing. These aren't lesser forms of love. They are love, in one of its purest and most grounded expressions. And yes, for many, intercourse is still a vibrant part of their lives, and that too is worthy of being celebrated, supported, and understood with care and medical guidance when needed. The quiet grief no one talks about. But let's also acknowledge something tender. There can be grief in this conversation. Grief for the body you once had. Grief for a partner who may no longer be able or willing to engage. Grief for the passion that feels distant, buried under the weight of daily routines or medical concerns. Sometimes people feel alone in this grief because no one talks about it. But you are not alone. Your experience is valid. And while grief may be part of this chapter, it does not have to be the whole story. There is space here for renewal. For playfulness. For softness. For rediscovery. The courage to stay open. It takes courage to stay open to intimacy as we age. To face new vulnerabilities. To speak honestly about what we want, and what no longer works. To explore new ways of touching, of communicating, of loving. It takes courage to tell your partner, I still want to feel close to you. Can we try something new? I miss how we used to hold each other. And it takes equal courage to listen. To meet each other with kindness. To adapt together without pressure or shame. That's what real connection is made of. You are still here. So if you're reading this and wondering, is it too late for me? Has that part of my life ended? Let me say this to you, clearly and with compassion. No, it has not. You are still here. You are still a sexual being. You are still capable of closeness, of pleasure, of deep and meaningful connection. There may be challenges, physical, emotional, relational. But there are also possibilities. There are doctors who specialize in sexual health for older adults. There are therapists who help couples reconnect after decades of silence. There are communities that offer safety and wisdom where your story is welcome, honored, and heard. You deserve this. Most of all, remember, you are not selfish for wanting to feel. You are not broken if your body needs more time. You are not strange for still longing for touch. You deserve to be held. To be desired. To be loved not just for what you once were, but for who you are right now. Because even as the body changes, even as the years pass, your heart still beats. Your soul still stirs. Your longing still matters. And it always will. Small Blue Diamond Part 1.2 Aging and Changing, That's Okay, expanded 1500 words. Let's speak honestly. Your body has changed. Maybe slowly, maybe suddenly. Maybe you noticed it in the mirror one morning, or maybe you felt it in the quiet shift of how you move through the world. The truth is, aging transforms us not just physically, but emotionally, hormonally, even spiritually. And yet, somewhere along the way, we were taught to resist these changes. To see them as losses. As something to be fixed, hidden, or feared. But what if we looked again? What if aging, even with its discomforts and surprises, wasn't the end of intimacy, but an invitation to evolve it? The shifting body. For many, aging brings physical changes that directly affect intimacy. Men may notice difficulties maintaining erections. Or that arousal takes longer than it used to. Women may experience vaginal dryness, pain during intercourse, or changes in libido due to menopause. Energy levels fluctuate. Medication side effects can dull desire. Chronic pain or illness can limit movement or reduce confidence. These are not personal failures. They are biological facts. And yet, far too often, people blame themselves or their partners. They become embarrassed, silent, distant. Instead of saying, "My body is different now, how can we adapt together?" they think, "Something is wrong with me. I don't want to disappoint them." This silence can be more harmful than the physical changes themselves. The role of hormones. Let's name it clearly, hormones matter. Estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, these powerful chemicals shape so much of our intimate lives. As we age, hormone levels decline, which can lead to lower libido, less natural lubrication, erectile difficulties, thinner, more sensitive skin, mood changes that affect desire. This is not weakness. This is not giving up. This is biology. And more importantly, there are ways to help. Hormone replacement therapy, HRT, vaginal moisturizers, or estrogen creams, medications like sildenafil or tadalafil. These tools exist not to chase youth, but to support healthy, satisfying connection as you are now. But even more than that, there is emotional support, communication, and patience. Because hormones may change, but your worth does not. Grieving what was, welcoming what is. Many people feel a quiet grief when their bodies don't respond the way they used to. They miss the spontaneity, the passion, the feeling of being in the mood without effort. This grief is real, and it deserves to be honored, not buried. Sometimes we try to deny it. "I'm fine. I'm too old for sex anyway. It doesn't matter anymore. It's just biology, not a big deal." But deep down, we may still long to be wanted. To be touched in the way we used to be. To feel that spark of closeness, even if it looks different now. This isn't about refusing to age. It's about refusing to give up on connection. And to do that, we have to allow both things to be true. I miss what we used to have. I'm open to discovering what intimacy can look like now. Grieving the old doesn't block the new. It makes space for it. Communication, the new aphrodisiac. One of the most powerful tools in navigating changing intimacy is open conversation. Not just about sex, but about fears, needs, frustrations, desires. The ability to say to a partner, "I need more time now. I don't feel as confident in my body. Can we try something slower, more gentle?" This kind of honesty doesn't kill desire, it builds it. It replaces pressure with permission. It replaces silence with curiosity. It invites both partners to be seen fully, not for what their bodies once did, but for what their hearts still feel. In this way, communication becomes foreplay. Adaptation, not abandonment. You do not have to abandon sex because things have changed. You may need to adapt. That's all. This might mean using lubrication without shame, exploring new positions that are easier on joints, scheduling intimate time instead of waiting for spontaneous desire, including sensual massage, kissing, or mutual touch even when intercourse isn't the goal. For some, it may mean redefining sex entirely, removing the performance script and making space for slow, intentional connection. None of this means your sex life is over. It means it's evolving as it should. Emotional intimacy grows deeper. Here's something beautiful. While physical passion may require more care, emotional intimacy often grows deeper with age. You know each other better. You've faced life's storms together or separately. You've made mistakes, made up, maybe even made peace with things you never imagined. This emotional closeness becomes the foundation of new forms of intimacy. It's in the way you reach for each other after an argument. The shared silence over morning tea. The small rituals that say, "I still choose you." In this space, even a gentle touch on the arm can carry meaning. Even lying side by side in quiet presence can feel erotic, not because of what is happening, but because of what is felt. Seeking help is strength, not shame. Many couples or individuals suffer quietly. They avoid the topic. They assume it's too late. They feel embarrassed to ask for help. But listen closely. Seeking support is not a sign of weakness. Sexual health is health. Just as we seek help for heart conditions or mobility issues, we can seek help for intimacy challenges from doctors, counselors, or sex therapists who specialize in working with older adults. A trained therapist can help a couple process emotional wounds that have created distance, create new expectations, reignite touch without pressure. Even if you're single, support can help you rebuild confidence, heal from past shame, and open up to connection again. You are not the only one facing these questions. You are not alone. And you deserve expert care with dignity. A new kind of confidence. There is a quiet power that comes with age. It's not flashy or loud. It's not rooted in performance or ego. It's the confidence that says, I know who I am. I have nothing to prove. I still deserve to feel. When you begin to accept your body as it is with kindness and without apology, something begins to shift. Shame softens. Desire begins to return. Intimacy becomes less about youth and more about truth. This is not giving up. This is growing up into a deeper, more honest version of love. A final word, you are not done. So if you felt like your changing body has left you behind, if you've wondered whether intimacy still belongs to you, let me say this as clearly as I can. You are not done. You are not too old. You are not invisible. You are here. You are changing, and that's okay. You are still capable of great tenderness, great desire, and great connection. Your story of intimacy is still unfolding. And the next chapter might just be the most honest, most vulnerable, most beautiful one yet. Let's pause for a moment. Close your eyes, and imagine the word intimacy. What comes to mind? Is it candlelight? A shared bed? The heat of a passionate kiss? For many of us, intimacy has long been linked to physical performance. A certain script. A rhythm we learned in our younger years and never questioned: desire, arousal, intercourse, climax. But what if that script no longer fits? What if the rhythm changes not because something's wrong, but because you have changed? This is where many older adults find themselves, still longing for connection, but unsure how to find it within bodies that move slower, feel different, or respond less predictably. And this is where a beautiful opportunity emerges, not to give up, but to redefine what intimacy means. Beyond performance, toward presence. For decades, sex was often measured in performance. Did it work? Was it long enough? Hard enough? Exciting enough? But this way of thinking misses something essential. Intimacy, real intimacy, isn't about performance. It's about presence. It's not about what your body can do. It's about how you show up for another human being. How you stay. How you listen. How you touch, not out of duty or expectation, but from a place of care. You might discover that the most powerful moments of intimacy come not from physical climax, but from emotional closeness, a lingering embrace, a shared laugh under the covers, a soft hand resting on yours after a long day. These are not lesser versions of sex. They are deeper versions of love. The language of touch. One of the first things to shift as we age is how we give and receive touch. We often think of touch in terms of sexuality, but it's so much bigger than that. Touch is language. It communicates, I see you. I care for you. I'm still here. As physical limitations arise, we may need to shift how we touch and what touch means. Perhaps intercourse isn't always possible. Perhaps it's painful or simply not appealing anymore. But that doesn't mean touch must disappear. In fact, older adults often report greater satisfaction from non-genital touch massages, spooning in bed, holding hands, bathing together, or even dancing slowly in the kitchen. This kind of touch builds oxytocin, the hormone of trust, bonding, and relaxation. It quiets the nervous system. It restores closeness. And in many cases, it opens the door to renewed desire, not through pressure, but through tenderness. Slowness as a gift. In youth, sex can be rushed, urgent, goal-driven. But with age, slowness becomes a strength. You no longer have to prove anything. You don't need to impress. You can savor. This slowness might look like longer foreplay, with more focus on conversation and emotional connection. Gentle exploration, using breath, massage, and soft movement. Taking breaks when needed, without embarrassment. Laughing if something doesn't go as planned. When we release the idea that sex has to follow a script, we begin to discover new ways of connecting. We also rediscover play, something often forgotten in adulthood. You can try new forms of touch. Experiment with scents, music, or settings that feel calming. Revisit fantasies. Read aloud to each other. Cook a meal in silence, then feed each other one bite at a time. These aren't just romantic, they're intimate. They create moments that say, I want to know you, not just your body, but your soul. Redefining roles in relationship. One of the quiet shifts that often goes unspoken in long-term relationships is how roles change over time. You might move from lovers to caregivers. From adventurers to comforters. From sexual partners to best friends. These roles can feel comforting, but they can also dull desire if not named and explored. Desire thrives on mystery, not in the sense of hiding from one another, but in the sense of remembering that your partner is not just familiar. They are also still a person with secret thoughts, fears, and longings. To redefine intimacy, we must allow each other to be complex again. This might mean asking new questions. What's something you wish I knew about you now? Reconnecting over shared memories. Do you remember our first weekend away? Sharing present desires. What kind of touch feels good to you these days? By stepping outside our familiar roles even briefly, we reawaken the energy of curiosity. And with curiosity comes connection. Intimacy without intercourse. Let's say this clearly. You can have a rich, fulfilling sex life without intercourse. This truth often comes as a relief and sometimes, a revelation. Many older couples find that when intercourse becomes difficult or impossible, they feel a sense of loss. But with time, many also discover freedom. They begin to ask, what else brings us close? What makes us feel wanted, seen, and safe? This is where sensuality re-enters. Sensuality isn't about genitals or climax. It's about the senses. The taste of chocolate on your partner's lips. The scent of skin warmed by sunlight. The sound of shared laughter. The feel of fingertips tracing slowly along an arm. When we tune into these moments, intimacy becomes bigger than sex, and yet, in some ways, more sexual than ever before. Because now, it's not about reaching a goal. It's about staying present together. Single and still sacred. Let's not forget those who are aging alone. Maybe you've lost a partner. Maybe you've been single for years. Maybe you've given up on dating, or feel invisible in a world obsessed with youth. Let this be said with full respect. Your capacity for intimacy did not vanish when your relationship ended. Your body still matters. Your longing still matters. Even solo, you can explore new ways of being intimate with yourself. Sensual self-touch, without shame. Writing letters to a future or past lover. Engaging in art, dance, or nature as sacred experiences. Joining communities where vulnerability is welcomed, not judged. And if you still hope for partnership, hope bravely. There are people, at every age, who want real connection. You are not too old for love. You are not too late. The kind of love you can offer now, wiser, more grounded, more generous, is a love worth receiving. A quiet revolution. When older adults reclaim intimacy on their own terms, it becomes a quiet revolution. You're saying, my worth isn't tied to youth. My pleasure isn't limited to performance. My connection can deepen, even as my body changes. You're teaching the world that aging doesn't end desire, it refines it. That love isn't about speed, it's about depth. That sex isn't just physical, it's emotional, spiritual, relational. This is not settling. This is awakening. A final whisper. So here, in the quiet of your heart, I invite you to ask. What does intimacy mean to me now? What do I miss? What do I hope for? What am I still curious to explore? And as you sit with those questions gently, without judgment, remember. You are not starting over. You are starting again. With deeper roots. With softer strength. With love that no longer needs to rush. The next time you reach for someone or for yourself, may it be not from habit, but from truth. May it say, I know myself better now. I offer my presence, not my performance. I open the door, again, to something beautiful. Because this, too, is intimacy. And this, too, belongs to you. Sparkles, you are still worthy of intimacy. Let's make something very clear. Aging does not mean you are unworthy of touch, of passion, of being desired. Too often, older adults internalize the false message that sexual desire and intimacy belong only to the young. That once the body softens, sags, or tires, the door to sensuality closes. But that is a myth. A cruel and limiting myth. The truth? Your soul has ripened. Your understanding of love has deepened. Your ability to connect, to hold, to comfort, to cherish has grown wiser with time. There is something profoundly erotic about being known not just for your body, but for your presence. And that kind of intimacy is timeless. Creating a new narrative. Every generation before us has lived with silence around aging and sex. But your generation, you have the power to change that. By speaking openly. By embracing your desires. By exploring intimacy not as something to achieve, but something to experience in all its forms. Whether you're partnered or solo, curious or hesitant, sexually active, or redefining what that means, you are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to write a new story about what connection looks like. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. A blessing for this chapter. So let me offer you this, as a quiet blessing. May you feel the warmth of your own skin, and not shrink from it. May you honor the changes in your body, without apology. May you rediscover the joy of being touched not just sexually, but meaningfully. May you speak your truth, without shame. And may you know, in the deepest place inside you, that it is never too late to feel close, to feel loved, to feel alive. Looking ahead. In the next section, we'll explore emotional safety and trust, two pillars that uphold healthy intimacy in later life. Because it's not just about what the body can do, it's about what the heart feels safe to reveal. We'll talk about how to rebuild emotional connection in long-term relationships, navigating intimacy after betrayal, loss, or distance, the role of forgiveness, vulnerability, and empathy, and how trust creates the foundation for both emotional and physical closeness. But for now, take a breath. Place a gentle hand on your chest. And remember, you are not finished. This chapter, this quiet, powerful, beautiful chapter is still being written. With tenderness. With courage. With love that listens, and lasts. Part 1.4, the role of emotional safety and trust. We often think of intimacy as something physical. But in truth, the body rarely opens fully unless the heart feels safe. Emotional safety is the quiet foundation beneath every lasting connection. It is the unspoken agreement. You can be all of who you are with me. I will not turn away. Especially in later life, when our bodies, relationships, and identities have shifted, trust becomes not just important, it becomes everything. Let's talk about how to rebuild it. How to protect it. And how it can transform not only your intimate life, but your entire sense of self. Small Blue Diamond: why emotional safety matters more with age. As we grow older, vulnerability doesn't disappear, it deepens. You've lived through joys, but also betrayals. You may carry grief of lost partners, faded desire, or relationships that didn't nourish you. You may have experienced shame, silence, rejection, especially around sexuality. So when you move toward closeness now, it's not just about skin. It's about memory. About meaning. About whether this space with this person is truly safe. That's why emotional safety is not a luxury. It is the ground you walk on when you choose to open again. Small orange diamond: signs of emotional safety. How do you know when it's present? You feel free to speak without fear of judgment. You can share a need or a boundary and it is heard. You are not shamed for changes in your body, your drive, or your emotions. There is space for tenderness, not just performance. You can laugh, cry, pause, or say not today and still be held in love. This kind of trust can be built or rebuilt with intention. But it takes more than words. Small Blue Diamond: rebuilding trust after distance. For many long-term couples, years of routine or silence can create emotional distance. Sometimes, wounds are left unspoken. Sometimes, one or both partners shut down. And yet, a small spark remains. Rebuilding intimacy is not about returning to the past. It's about choosing each other now, as you both are. Here's how to begin. Name the desire gently. Say, I miss feeling close to you. Can we explore that together? No blame. No pressure. Just truth. Create safe space for conversation. Turn off distractions. Sit face to face. Speak from I, not you. Apologize, if needed. Forgive, if you're ready. Old pain doesn't have to rule the future. But it must be honored before it can be released. Start small. A touch. A shared moment. Eye contact. Intimacy often begins in silence, not action. Small orange diamond emotional closeness after loss or trauma. If you've lost a spouse. If you've survived trauma. If your heart still carries wounds. Let this be said with great care. You are allowed to move forward at your own pace. You do not owe your healing to anyone else's timeline. And you do not need to erase the past to open the door to your future. Many older adults begin new relationships after grief. The most successful ones begin not with pretending, but with honesty. You can say, I carry this love with me. But I still want to love again. I'm healing. Can we move slowly together? Touch is hard for me. But I'm willing to try, if you're gentle. The right partner or support system will meet that honesty with compassion. Small blue diamond intimacy isn't always sexual. Let's say this clearly. You don't have to perform to be intimate. Intimacy can be sitting in bed, holding hands, sharing stories from long ago, slow dancing in the kitchen, a hand resting on a shoulder in silence. For couples with health limitations, or those navigating medications, surgeries, or physical changes, intimacy might need to be reimagined. That's not a loss. That's an invitation to discover what connection means to you now. Small orange diamond, the power of emotional presence. Emotional safety is not about always having the right words. It's about showing up. Being emotionally present means you notice your partner's mood, and ask, what's on your mind? You respond with curiosity, not correction. You give reassurance when needed even if the problem isn't yours to solve. You say, I'm here. I see you. I'm not going anywhere. These gestures build something sex cannot replace, trust. And from trust, deep closeness can grow again. When to seek help. Sometimes, intimacy feels blocked by shame, past trauma, or communication breakdowns that seem too big to bridge. That's when outside support is not weakness, it's wisdom. Sex therapists, couples counselors, support groups for older adults, these resources exist for a reason. You are not too old to heal. You are not too broken to begin again. Seeking help is an act of love for yourself, and for your relationship. Speech balloon closing words, you are safe to love again. In this final section of our first chapter, let me offer one more truth. You are safe to love again. Not because life is certain, but because you have grown strong enough to love with your eyes open. Yes, bodies change. Yes, vulnerability can be scary. Yes, intimacy asks something brave from all of us. But here you are. Still breathing. Still longing. Still capable of deep connection. So speak softly. Touch kindly. Listen often. Let love come in the quiet spaces, the slow mornings, the simple moments. You are not too late. You are right on time. And this is just the beginning.